she won the match, not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, like, if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy balls.
Not going to be Sabalenka. She's not going to be a Rybakina type where she can just go out and serve and hit her way out of matches. She's got to go out there methodically, tactically go out there and beat her opponents, point in and point out, and she does such a good job of that. And when she gets that crowd on her side, she is a tough out.
This was never supposed to happen. Aryna Sabalenka was meant to be the star, the powerhouse, and the leading figure. Then, Eala flipped the narrative, and the crowd could not help but follow. While one defends titles, the other is winning hearts around the world. Rankings tell one story, but popularity is telling another. Louder, unstoppable, and entirely her own.
Were blowing them out of the water. Like, the popularity she had was not even close to anyone else. No one could match her. She was doubling second place Novak Djokovic, who's won 24 Grand Slam titles. But he can't catch Eala in this category. She's already top of the chart in this way of looking at the sport. So I thought that was really staggering. You're right. I think Filipinos, a bit like Brazilians online, and also a Brazilian player in the sport, have a reputation for certainly being big in the comments and having a huge pop. It's a huge country.
If you are enjoying this, please subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you could imagine. Nothing matches the spectacle of a world number one stepping onto the court expecting a routine session, only to be handed a 58-minute reality check by a fearless wildcard from Manila, rewriting expectations in under an hour.
She's the biggest draw in women's tennis right now.
Yes.
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco?
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same effect that Fonseca was having, like, on the men's side last year in Miami.
It's like Fonseca, but I think it's bigger than Fonseca.
It is, yeah, it is.
Like, the Doha, crowds were insane for her last week.
If she wins a slam, it would be like one of the biggest things in the world.
Yeah, correct.
She's definitely one to watch, obviously because she's so good, but just for the atmosphere. You want to tune into her matches just to see what it's like on the court.
There's got to be like a little jealousy maybe from some of the women, that girls coming in.
That was the day Aryna Sabalenka thought she was in for a light jog at Indian Wells, only to discover she had unknowingly signed up for a masterclass taught by Eala, a fearless 20-year-old who clearly ignored the rules of ranking respect.
Eala, I was not familiar with your game. Eala is a semi-finalist at the Miami Open, and she had to defeat Katie Volinets, Yelena Ostapenko, Madison Keys, and Iga Swiatek to get there. Yes, Iga Swiatek, the #2 player in the world, lost to Eala. And this wasn't a 3-set battle. This was a straight set win by Eala, who dominated the first set, winning it 6-2.
Let's be honest, nobody highlighted that fourth-round matchup at the Indian Wells Open and thought, this is where everything changes. The expected script was clear. Aryna Sabalenka would dominate, advance comfortably, sign autographs, and maintain her reign. Instead, Eala arrived like a student who had spent years preparing and suddenly decided it was time to grade the teacher, rewriting the narrative entirely.
Yeah, well, I think on social media, in terms of that metric, the biggest thing I've noticed actually is that this tournament is the Australian Open YouTube channel. Yeah. They uploaded 29 of the pre-tournament press conferences that the players did, and mostly it's the biggest stars in the sport. And then also Eala, who is clearly one of the biggest stars. And before, as of today, I was looking at the view counts for these videos. Eala is in first place among all 29 of these top Australian Open players. I think at the time she had about 173,000 views on this YouTube video of her press conference. But the second...
To understand why this feels like a full-blown popularity earthquake, you have to rewind to 2025, when Eala was ranked 143rd. Entering tournaments with introductions that had commentators shuffling their notes and pretending they had always been tracking her game. At the Miami Open, she appeared as a wild card, a polite tennis way of saying, nice story, probably gone by Wednesday. Instead, she dismantled 3 major champions in straight sets, including then world #2, Iga Swiatek. As if seeding were merely a suggestion, the tennis world responded in its usual way, claiming they had always believed while quietly rewriting preseason predictions. By the end of the run, Eala had stormed into the top 100, becoming the first Filipino player to achieve that milestone. But it was not just a shift in ranking, it was a national event. The Philippines did not celebrate quietly. The nation erupted as if the entire timeline had frozen for this single achievement, turning a personal breakthrough into a moment of collective pride and making it clear that a new star had arrived on the global tennis stage.
I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it is great to be on a crowded court. I've played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full, it means a lot. And also like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
Then came the U.S. Open in 2025, where Alex Eala casually made history, becoming the first Filipino player in the Open era to win a Grand Slam singles match. The tennis establishment responded with polite intrigue, publicly impressed, but privately unsure whether this was a fleeting surge or the start of something disruptive. By the time she closed the season ranked 50th, the conversation had evolved from "who is she?" to "how far can she go?" Eala's following did not just grow, it multiplied and mobilized. Social media feeds turned into strategy rooms. Every match became a trending topic, and every highlight had cinematic edits. Somewhere in that digital storm, dominance and popularity quietly separated. By the time the Indian Wells Open arrived in 2026, the stage was set for something far bigger than rankings.
Exchange breaks in the second set, and she was able to hang on and win it 7-5. Eala seemed to be on cloud 9 after the match, beating one of her tennis idols while Tony Nadal was sitting in her box. And this is one of the craziest runs by a wild card at a tournament ever. She beat 3 Grand Slam champions and now is going to enter the top 100. Alex Eala is here.
When Alex Eala stepped onto the court to face Aryna Sabalenka in the 4th round of the Indian Wells Open, the storyline seemed obvious. World number 1 versus rising star, experience against youth, and power against promise. Yet, what unfolded was anything but predictable. What emerged was precision versus panic. From the very first game, Eala played with a composure that suggested she had already envisioned this exact moment countless times at the Rafa Nadal Academy, where she honed her skills after growing up in Manila. There is something deeply poetic about taking years of rigorous training and discipline, then applying it to casually dismantle the top-ranked player in under an hour. The first set closed 6-2 inches Eala's favor. Eala redirected pace, absorbed power, and converted it against her opponent with the precision of a martial arts master, using momentum as a weapon. The second set continued the same unnerving rhythm. Eala remained aggressive without recklessness, calm without passivity, and confident without surprise. Sabalenka, meanwhile, seemed to search for solutions in places that no longer existed as control of the match quietly and irrevocably slipped from her grasp.
These matches in particular are just really the ones that kind of stick with you, and I've had a lot of them in the past year, so I'm really happy with this win. And yeah.
Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest.
The scoreboard did not waver, and the crowd did not need a second look to register what had happened. The world number 1 had been dismantled by a 20-year-old wildcard who, only a year ago, was still being introduced as a promising prospect. Social media did not simply react, it detonated. Clips of the final point spread faster than official highlights. Hashtags multiplied, timelines flooded, and analysts scrambled to account for how they had somehow underestimated a player whose rise had been visible all along. Amid the digital chaos, one truth became undeniable. Alex Eala was no longer merely a rising talent, she was an event. On that court, the spotlight swiveled, acknowledging a new main character. Eala's fandom is not quiet. It does not tiptoe politely or clap respectfully and leave. It overwhelms comment sections with national pride, statistical analysis, and fervent discussion. It transforms a 4th-round victory into a global trending story. It makes sponsors sit up and take notice, prompts television producers to reconsider programming, and signals to the world that a new force in tennis has arrived, one whose influence extends far beyond the rankings and straight into the cultural zeitgeist.
Championship points for Eala. Serve out wide to the backhand of Eala. Return goes into the backhand of Udvardi. Eala backhand on the attack. Udvardi with a pass. And a drop volley from Eala is no good because Udvardi gets it, but then Eala backhand on the stretch is a winner! That's how you win your first title of the year! Alex Eala wins in Alex Eala fashion with that last point. The racket goes flying. She wins. History for the Philippines.
Imagine being Arena Sabalenka, scrolling through your phone after that match, expecting the usual highlights of your own thunderous forehands, only to find the algorithm serving up 47 different edits of Eala's backhand returns instead. That is not merely a loss, it is a shift in gravitational pull. The remarkable part is that this was not a fluke. Eala's 2025 season had already paved the way. The breakthrough Miami Open run, the historic US Open victory, and the steady ascent into the top 50. Indian Wells was not lightning striking randomly. It was the storm finally becoming visible to everyone. Yet, Sabalenka seemed genuinely taken aback by the intensity of Eala's following, a calm self-assurance that felt almost cinematic, the kind that turns every shot into a statement. After Indian Wells, discussions shifted from rankings to eras. Questions arose about whether the sport was witnessing the opening chapter of a future world number one, a player who had already announced her ambitions without hesitation. At 20, Eala's clarity and her public declaration to win slams and reach the summit is either bold or terrifying, depending on which side of the net you stand. On that day, the tennis world realized just how quickly the narrative had begun to pivot.
20-year-old Filipino tennis star Eala has sent Melbourne Park crowds into an absolute frenzy. We'll go live to Ollie Haig, who's in Garden Square for us this evening. Ollie, she's about to get her second chance.
Yeah, certainly right, Tom. After last night's singles loss, she'll have another go tonight at getting through to the second round in the doubles. Now, Eala, she's really been the talk of Melbourne Park today. She's just 20 years old, ranked 49 in the world. But the reason why there is just so much interest is because she's the highest-ranking Filipino in history.
For Arena Sabalenka, the pressure now comes from two directions. She must still defend her place on the court against opponents growing hungrier with every tournament. Simultaneously, she faces the reality that the audience's attention, the invisible currency of modern sports, is shifting towards someone fresh and historic. Tennis has always admired power, but it worships a breakthrough story even more. Eala embodies that narrative flawlessly. A young player from Manila, trained in Spain, who broke into the top 100 against expectations, made Grand Slam history, and then stunned the world number one in under an hour. It reads less like a season recap and more like a cinematic screenplay. The irony is that Sabalenka did everything right. She trained, she won, and she earned her ranking. Yet, in an era dominated by viral moments and global fandoms, sheer dominance no longer guarantees universal admiration. You need a compelling storyline. Eala arrived with hers fully formed, pre-packaged, and ready to captivate, proving that in today's tennis, narrative can rival power as the ultimate force on and off the court.
So well that allowed her to advance to the semifinals in Auckland.
I think, every match that Alex plays, she gets better and better. I think if you would look at the first match against Vekic, medyo pa siya na konti. Parang meron pang jitters and everything. First tournament niya of the year, medyo jittery pa na konti. But after she passed through the first round, everything else was really...
Now, every tournament that features both Arena Sabalenka and Eala carries more than competitive tension. It carries narrative tension. Can Sabalenka reassert her dominance and quiet the chatter about a rising star? Or will Eala continue stacking performances that make the prospect of a new world number one feel less speculative and more inevitable? The intriguing part is that Eala seems completely unfazed. She plays as if she belongs, speaks as though winning slams is expected, and carries herself with a calm that borders on mischievous. It is the kind of calm reserved for someone who knows exactly how much effort she has invested and refuses to shrink to fit anyone else's expectations. Meanwhile, Sabalenka must navigate the disorienting reality that being the tour's most feared hitter does not automatically guarantee universal admiration, a sting sharper than any passing shot. If Indian Wells was the warning, the remainder of the season promises the real test. Tennis adores new favorites, but sustaining momentum requires more than a single iconic victory. Eala's 2025 breakout was the foundation. Her 2026 Indian Wells upset was the declaration. So, is Sabalenka panicking? Officially, no. Champions rarely admit panic. Unofficially, when a 20-year-old wildcard dismantles you in 58 minutes and half the internet erupts in her name, you feel something. Call it motivation, call it irritation, or call it the sudden awareness that the throne has wheels and it just rolled slightly to the left.
Yesterday's crowds were anything to go by. We can expect it's going to be another chock-a-block at night here at Melbourne Park tonight. We saw she was given a special security escort to Court 6 last night. There were thousands of Filipinos who tried to get a glimpse of the star on Court 6. Hundreds didn't manage to get in. They were, in fact, quite rowdy at times, told to be quiet. So there has just been just a lot of interest in this play. Unfortunately, the result didn't go her way last night. But as I said, another chance at doubles tonight. Now,
the beauty of this rivalry lies in its ability to force both players to evolve. Arena Sabalenka can no longer rely solely on raw power when opponents have learned to redirect it. Eala cannot rely solely on hype if she hopes to transform potential into lasting dominance. Their clash is about more than rankings. It is about identity. One embodies established authority, while the other embodies disruptive ambition. When that disruptive ambition comes paired with a passionate, almost unstoppable fandom, the encounter becomes less a tennis match and more a cultural event. The 2026 Indian Wells Open will be remembered not just for the scoreline, but for the day the tennis hierarchy trembled. Eala did not merely beat the world number one, she announced her intent to become one. Sabalenka did not just lose a match, she gained a rival who refuses to play the supporting role. If this is only the opening chapter of Eala's career, the rest of the tour has reason to be uneasy. Nothing is more dangerous than a young player armed with proof, momentum, and a nation roaring behind her. Conversely, nothing is more motivating than a champion realizing she is no longer the only headline in town. The next meeting will not be an upset opportunity, it will be a showdown. Between baseline rallies and roaring crowds, the question remains, will the old guard reassert itself, or has a new reign begun powered by precision, poise, and an unstoppable fandom? One thing is certain, the tennis world no longer asks who Eala is, it asks how far she will go, a question capable of keeping even the hardest-hitting world number ones awake at night.